Karina did a nice segue for us because she brought up the Godard, and to a certain kind of to a certain kind of viewer, to a certain kind of cinephile, they'd like to trace a continuity between a sort of medium-defining master like Godard and someone like Pishitpong. There's some people who've even made those comparisons, if not between those two filmmakers, at least between their impact and their respective time periods. But of course, Joe is only going to continue to make films, whereas Godard has, every time he makes a movie, this is his valedictory statement, and this time he's actually said he might be done. So maybe Godard is kind of a decent place to end, and you can begin the ending by maybe saying what you thought about the film. Would you frame it as being condescending, or do you?
Well, okay, I saw the version that they showed here that didn't have the Navajo English subtitles.
So this is a film in several languages, mostly French, but also German and Russian, that in Cannes premiered without what you would term regular, complete English subtitles, and instead used sort of like a graphic play and puns, not extensively, but a sort of like elliptical way of giving sort of keywords as to what was actually being said. So what Bob and I saw in Cannes was a partially Englishly subtitled version, and then here screened in Toronto the first time. The second time they corrected it. The first time was a totally unsubtitled copy, which
not by intention.
No.
But we didn't know if it was by intention or not. So I mean, certainly nobody stopped the movie and was like, "Sorry guys," and nobody said anything after.
So how's your French?
So well, I can understand words like derrière, but for the most part,
understood most of that.
For the most part, I have to say,
used in the film?
There was one scene where somebody said derrière, and I was like, oh, I got that. You were saying that you thought that a lot of it was very beautiful, and I have to agree. I got a lot watching it just from the visuals, particularly the third section. But there are also times where I just felt like walking into a movie theater in a foreign country and trying to, especially in that second section where it's sort of a family narrative, apparently, just trying to figure out something about what was going on was really challenging. So I would like to say that I haven't really seen it.
Fernando?
Well, I believe it was at the same screening without any subtitles, and my French really doesn't go beyond high school level. So I guess I was able to follow a little bit. On the second segment, for instance, I could tell that some of the people were commenting on their own status as characters, quote unquote. But I would certainly need to watch it and get the whole thing again. But the kind of dance of image, sound, and text that it was, it's still pretty staggering. And that in itself is for a reason for anybody to kind of seek it out and be frustrated on their own.
Yeah. See, and of course I saw that same screening as well, and I had some friends and colleagues who saw that screening. And when we spoke about it afterwards, some of them were of the opinion, some just out of camera range, were of the opinion that who even needs the subtitles? It's a place. He didn't necessarily say that. It's just sounds and images. I'm like, well, but no, since a lot of those sounds are actual words that we require some sort of understanding of. So I'm actually with you in saying that I have not really seen the film yet. You guys have seen the film a bit more than we have.
Yeah,
let's put it
the
that
film
way.
really is about something, and you absolutely have to have the accompanying text.
So Bob, what is it about?
Well, I think that at its center, film socialism is about the Levant. That's the geographic heart and soul of the film. The middle section, which is set in France, is sort of the French reflection on the issues that are introduced in the first part and then revived in the third section. But his attention is on key historical, socially historical and culturally historical points of geography in the Levant, meaning the Eastern Mediterranean. And the companion film, there is a little bit on the Western Mediterranean, but
you're going to mention D'Oliveira?
But yes, the companion film to this is De Oliveira's Talking Picture, which followed a mother and her daughter on a cruise tour across the Mediterranean and touch on some of the same geographical points. But what's interesting is that whereas Talking Picture ends incredibly pessimistically with the terrorist act, Film Socialism is a very optimistic film. He now disbands with any anti-Americanisms, which I think have really, I don't say this is American, I just think that they have been flaws in some of his recent films, just flies in the ointment. It's far too easy to just do knee-jerk anti-Americanisms. He's dispensed with those altogether in this film. And what, picking over what you were saying, Fernando, that the playfulness of sound, image juxtaposed, the playfulness of different media from consumer video up to high-end and 35. He is playing with the medium like a kid. You know, what Orson Welles said, you know, studio is the best toy store a boy ever had.
I've never seen water shot that way. The not just the wake of the boat, but the opening shot. I can't remember exactly the opening shot. The opening shot of the sea. I mean, it's stunning. And I agree with Andrew and with Karina both that the use of digital video, some of the textures he gets, some of the contrasts that he gets, the framings. But at the same time, I don't know why we're surprised by any of this, because he is Jean-Luc Godard. But what I like is that I did allow myself to be surprised by that. I was not a huge fan of Notre Musique, and I was not a huge fan of Eloge de Moore, and a lot of that has to do maybe with their content, which is maybe a bit of a superficial thing to say. But in this film, because I found myself, and I did see it with the Navajo English subtitles, because I found myself wrestling with the content. I think the content is more interesting than the last couple of films. I would 100% agree with what Bob said, which is that the lack of the cheap shot anti-Americanism helps. I think that in a way, even though on one level I agree with Karina that he does think he's smarter than all of us, I did think that there was slightly more optimism and generosity in this movie. And like the Apple Chaperon film, it's a film to be seen over and over again. Whereas Notre Musique, I watched and I thought, I don't need to watch this again. I might be wrong in that case, but with this film, I feel like I could watch it again tomorrow.
Which brings you back to what Karina was saying, walking away from this.
Absolutely, what I think everyone has suggested. And then, you know, we're on...
Since you are wrong.
I'm wrong about what?
Notre Musique.
Notre Musique.
But move on.
I'm sure I am wrong.